Spirit, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
The DL Debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Check this.
Falcha, gat Donegal G and DL Debate. Le Misha Brendan McDovnia and Shot I Highland Radio. Falcha, welcome everyone to Highland Radio. This is the DL Debate. Joe Deck says it's the top sports show in Ireland. Right, Joe? Maybe a bit biased. Joe, of course, was doing the Power Hour Plus there. He was keeping the tunes going. Thanks to Michaela for the news as ever. Folks, another packed show in store this evening. Shortly we're going to hear from Paul Finley, former Monaghan star and one of our heroes of 2012, Paul Durkan. They'll be on to chat all things Donegal, Monaghan and any other aspects of the GA. We'll then have a catch up with our hurling boss, Mickey McCann, after a side's now defeat to Derry in the Christie Ring. Of course, Derry favourites for the competition, and a brilliant performance from our lads after a very tough outing against Derry earlier in the season and with Derry in the league. We're then going to catch up with Shani Johnson, the mercurial Shani Johnson of Cavan. I was up there with him yesterday watching Tyrone versus his Cavan to get his take on it. And then I'm going to speak with Paddy Hunter. He's GA commentator up in Omagh. We're going to speak a wee bit more about the Ulster Championship with them. Now, I headed off up the road yesterday. Actually, Mark at Evolve dropped me a wee message. I come down. He got me about a clobber. Hey, we all know Evolve well. Looks after the Donegal lads as well, and always a great shop, great welcome in there. And I want to thank Mark for putting me into shape as I went up the road. And Paul Durkan's on with us. We've seen him step about in plenty of Evolve gear at the time. I tell you what a man to be modelling it. He's joined us now along with Paul Finley. Are you there, lads?
Yes, thanks to be. How's it going?
What's going, Paul?
All right, Brendan.
Paul,
yeah, we're all good.
Great to have you on, lads. Great to have you on, Dirk. What about that, Dirk? You're a wee bit of a model. Yeah, the Evolve stuff, is it still fitting you all right?
Well, I suppose you asked Paul there. Some of the stuff I was wearing at college, that still fits me anyway, so I'm not doing too bad.
Hey, that's say respect to you. There's an odd pair of jeans you pull on there, and you're like, no, this is going to cause me the lungs to stop working.
I'm still thinking.
You were always a Slim Jim yourself, Paul. Anyway, you're not too bad.
Not too bad. Just when you talk about college, Papa, it takes me back to that man there that has us on this evening doing a wee bit of breakdancing around Sligo town, hey, and he had a wee bit of funky music just kicking off the show there. So
the boys that night, hey, how do you remember that? I'll tell you why I remember it. I nearly broke my back in that Leitrim bar. We were going a wee bit OTT on the madness. Now, there was absolutely no rules in that bar. I think McNiff himself was in there. What do you call it? The lad that gave him was in there, used to run it.
Was it Connor? Was it
Connor? Of course, yeah, Connor. Yeah. A good lad. Hey, and I was looking around and he was just enjoying the crack, and I was like, this is mad as it gets. I don't know if you see that anymore, boys, but as you said to me before, Dirks, thank God the old camera phones. You only had Nokia's then, but anyway, we can relive the tales another time. Lads, we're going to get stuck into the football here. Paul, Monaghan, Derry, the top teams in Ulster, we've seen a bit of an imbalance there. Now, in fairness, Antrim put it up to Armagh in the first half, but listen, the inevitable happened. We've seen, Tyrone being much too good for Cavan yesterday. After seeing Donegal against Derry and all the talk that there is, and of course Monaghan going down, coming straight up again, what are you expecting now from Donegal heading into this game?
I think there's still a few question marks in Monaghan just about where Monaghan are really at when it comes to the league campaign. Yes, Monaghan we're all very happy about how the league went. I think there was some brilliant displays throughout the campaign, and it ended in a great victory in Croke Park against the Roscommon side. The problem is that it was a proper Division 2. We didn't see any Division 1 per se teams down there like you would have in the last few years, the like of Armagh, the like of Dublin. Donegal, Derry have all had stages there in Division 2, but it was a proper Division 2 this year where none of the teams you could say were of the class, that Monaghan's going to be bumping into now at the weekend. And look, it's so the question is, where are we at with regards to a top side? And we know that Donegal, not to bum these up, lads, but there's a serious squad that Jim has developed there now, and this is into his second season, and it's just hard to know where Monaghan's at. But a lot of green shoots, a lot of positivity, a lot of pace in their team, and yes, well, we're not sure. We're certainly hoping to get a big performance and take it to Donegal. And who knows? It's in Clonus. Should be a great atmosphere, and big crowd there if the weather holds up. It should be a great spectacle. And from a Monaghan perspective, you'd just be hoping that the lads can give it their best shot and be in a game and see where that takes them.
Yeah, sure, be in a game, Dirks. I'll tell you what. You think back from your time, Big Paul, around the battles with Monaghan. Obviously 14. Donegal won an Ulster Monaghan, but 13 and 15 both went the way of the Monaghan men. Paul Durkan, do you think that Monaghan in many ways go down, come straight up as champions? Are they coming under the radar a small bit against Donegal? Because certainly what I've seen, particularly in that second half, 1v1 tackling, their shape at the back, and then their energy breaking forward. They look really on it as a team.
Yeah, this was the battles we had with them going back into the noughties, and Donegal have always struggled with Monaghan, and a lot of that has to do with the aggression and the pace that they show, and that's probably the big thing that jumped out at me from watching the games through the league was that pace and aggression seemed to be around the middle again. And I think they've come back from probably the last couple of years. You didn't see it, and some of the lads attacking from the back again, are given the freedom to get up the pitch. And I think, and the other side of it then is when you are going at a pace and aggression that they're getting a lot of frees, and you can see how Rory, he's tagging on a lot of long frees, and that 2 point. But the big thing Donegal are going to have to cope with is how they manage the arc and manage to not foul, because we all know what Rory can do, and you're giving them a 2-pointer straight away. So if Donegal are engaging outside the arc, they're going to have to be very very disciplined, and they might be better off fouling inside it. So it'll definitely be interesting. But yeah, a lot of battles with Monaghan, especially in Clonus. That's obviously their home, and it'll be nothing easy out of that.
Yeah, listen, Paul Finley, this takes up what Dirks was saying there, just around the danger of begging and what he brings to it. But of course, Vinnie Corey leaves last year, Monaghan went down. There was a real sense, Conor McManus retired. There's a real sense there, Paul, of God, is it going to be a tough few years for Monaghan? Gabriel Bannigan's input this year and where Monaghan seemed to have went very quickly has been quite amazing. Of course, his nephew has been to the fore of that, handling, the former Conor McCarthy's had 218 in the league. But, obviously Byrne getting man of the match, him, O'Toole and Wiley at the back line. And as you mentioned then, likes of Jack McCarron coming on the bench and that. So there seems to be a great balance with this Monaghan team. And in many ways, I suppose to be relishing this game of Donegal coming down the tracks, particularly going in as underdogs.
Yeah, no, it's definitely all positive in Monaghan. I think Gabriel Bannigan deserves great credit for just turning the squad around from what you say, Brendan. Everybody expecting almost, and even people within Monaghan expecting Monaghan to maybe to remain in Division 2 at best for a couple of seasons, to start trying to build again. So to find themselves back up in Division 1 straight away, it has to, the credit has to go to Gabriel Bannigan and his whole team of men that he's pulled together. I'm sure there's a few women in there too, so kudos to them. But it's purely, just the organisation, probably like Banty, like any good management team, just getting good people around them. And there's been serious chat coming out of the influence of Andy Moran. Myself and Papa would know Andy from our days in Sligo, and look, yeah, somebody that got he's such a brilliant player, got the best out of himself on the pitch, and he seems to be, you know, a really top coach as well. And he goes around with that really larger than life sort of perspective, and he seems to have brought that into the Monaghan dressing room, and they're all buzzing, they're all listening to him, and you know, he's certainly getting a bounce. You know, so you could be getting a bounce in the first term as well. You always you see teams really you know, tuned in and wanting to impress, etc. So it's going, the league campaign has gone well. So, but as I go back to, lads, you're going into a different competition now. You know, there's lots for Monaghan to be positive about. Rory Beggan is absolutely huge to Monaghan's success to date, lads. We know what he's been over the last number of years, and his influence has probably grown, if anything. And I think it's a massive piece of the game that we look forward to on Sunday, is the battle of the keepers. Like, you know, you guys have Sean Patton, who's outstanding in his own right. And at kick-out time, you know, he's really picking out his guys really well. And in Rory, we know how strong he is around kick-out. So it's a massive part of the game, and how the rules have evolved and the game has developed. You know, retaining your own kick-out and then doing well off the opposition kick-out. So that could be a key part to how the game goes at the weekend, and who's doing best in that area. But look, all the guys you mentioned, Brendan, Conor McCarthy having a great season. Stephen O'Hanlon is just a live wire. I'm sure Donegal will be keeping a keen eye on him, and Jim will have something planned up his sleeve to try and, you know, damper his involvement in the game. But you know, there is quality all over the field. You mentioned Micheál Bannigan, Ryan McInnesby's back in good form. It just depends on how the last couple of weeks training has gone. You know, I'm not hearing anything in regards to injury lists, like, you know, and I feel like maybe Donegal's squad and the depth of their squad maybe is a little bit stronger than Monaghan. So if Monaghan are carrying any injuries to key players going into the game, it could be detrimental. But you know, we'll know more as we get closer to the weekend. We'll hear a team announced, and we look forward to what should be a great battle.
Yeah, should be a good battle. Dirk's no better man to ask about the kickouts then. Dirk, yesterday Rourke had such a struggle with Cavan on the kickout. It didn't look to me, and maybe if it did to you, did you see the game, Dirk? I don't know if you did or not, but the Cavan struggle, it didn't seem to be any real movement, any massive plan, and you could see it with Tyrone, and you could see it with the top teams. You know, we know about Beggan's ability to kick 2-pointers now, but just on the kick out itself, Dirk's the amount of work that's going behind the scenes to get that primary possession. You know, even when it does go long, it usually is targeted. And when you have Beggan and Patton there, you know, even going out the halfway line, you can still target people. So that side of, first of all, trying to get your own possession and then trying to stop the others, there's some battle going on now, because really Tyrone hammered Cavan on that yesterday. It was the launch pad for the victory.
Yeah, it was they had massive issues, and I suppose it was really prevalent in Derry v Donegal, like, where Derry, you know, geez, they struggled big time on their own kick out, and Donegal capitalised on that. And yeah, that goes back to probably the guy in goals probably isn't a full-time keeper or per se, but you know, when Derry played Donegal in the league and Oran Lynch was in goals, they got a lot away, and they hurt Donegal. You know, the goal, and Conor Glass's goal came off kick out. Derry scored a lot, and obviously Donegal came back in that game, but late. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much the other, like, Donegal, will they decide to push hard on Beggan, or will Monaghan push hard on Sean, because yeah, they're both exceptional at picking out the pockets. I think the breaks too, you know, you can see the signals a lot of the time that the defenders are already reacting. They know what's going long, and when those guys go long, there's massive distance, and yeah, and also you can see that they're getting well set up defensively on their own kick out. So there is that cautiousness to both teams, but no, I think it'll be an interesting one to see how hard the other teams press each other, you know, and that'll be a key battle. But yeah, they're both exceptional keepers, you know, and I think Sean showed how good he is against Derry, and fingers crossed it's a dry ball, a nice day for it, and it'll even make it even better, you know.
Yeah, well, high praise from one of the best himself. Paul, tell me this. Energy, right? You're looking at your Monaghan team, energy, right? You look at the Antrim performance yesterday or on Saturday. They took it to Armagh with a bit of energy. Now, of course, you always expected Armagh on the bench and O'Shea come on, had 3 2-pointers. They were missing a few, etc. Just looked at Cavan yesterday. They didn't seem to have the energy. They didn't get about Tyrone. They didn't unsettle him. And you look at Monaghan's play. Monaghan are definitely going to get about Donegal. And I suppose, is that the big thing we're seeing? I thought, just saying to Johnny Johnson yesterday, he was just saying, listen, we knew from the get-go, they have that terrible record against Tyrone. It's 11, 12 championship games now, going back 40-odd years or whatever. That type of preparation you need to kind of get about a team. So Monaghan now have been lying in wait in many ways. They've had their break from the league final. They've watched Donegal play championship again. They will certainly bring energy, and the game will be on. There'll be a period in this, Paul, you would feel, where Monaghan will be there to strike. There'll certainly be that part of the game, which I felt with Derry. You never really felt that. They didn't. Again, going back to that thing of kind of the energy and a bit of belief. Wasn't with them. A couple of teams I've seen there, particularly with Derry and Cavan, but it was certainly with your lads.
Yeah, no, I at the very least, that's what I'd be expecting from this Monaghan side. And you've mentioned Cavan, and I've seen a good part of the match yesterday, and that was disappointing. You're looking for intensity when it comes to championship. You're looking for the levels of intensity to be increased, from the league, and for all intents and purposes, it's not it is a criticism, and I'm sure Cavan are looking at the performance, and they'll have to look at it deep. About where was that real energy. Now maybe they had some injury concerns and some key players missing, that just maybe it hurt the camp or whatever, but just Tyrone were in total control from early days in the game, and Monaghan will be doing all the power to try and avoid Donegal getting into their stride from the get-go. And that's what you need. Coming from league, you've had a few weeks to I'd say they grabbed a couple of good nights out after the league win, as you always have to. You get a trophy, lads. You have to celebrate it, get a few beers on, and then get back in training, and everybody comes back bouncing and mad for the road. So at the very least, I'd be expecting Monaghan to come with serious gusto, at a home championship match in Clonus. There should be a good crowd behind them if the weather holds up at all. And yes, you would be expecting to come with serious energy. There's great pace in the Monaghan side at the moment, and I can see them getting in around Donegal. I think that middle sector is going to be critical if it's not been won primary possession, off the kick out, that second ball, who is going to be hungry for it and, launch the attacks, from there. And whoever can win that battle, could go a long way, because they both have prolific scoring threats. And, that will decide where the game, who's going to get a foothold. We know that teams can get a run and maybe go 6, 7, 8 points up, but they're not over the line. The new rules are dictating that 2-pointers can get a team back into the game really quickly. Goals can happen because the game's a wee bit more open. So there's so much on the line. There was a lot made, around, maybe that Monaghan having a good record against Donegal. But look, for us, the less that's said about that, the better. From our point of view, you want to be keeping that under the radar, and you want to be, but for me, Jim McGuinness is a long time around coaching now. He'll have his lads well primed to deal with any of that chat, and I don't expect it to come into the fray at all this weekend. I expect both teams to go at it, and it'll take a hell of a performance from Monaghan, I think, to topple this Donegal side, the stride that they're in at the moment. But I certainly I'm hoping that they can bring a big performance, and let's see where that gets them.
Yeah, I'm sensing a quietly confident Paul Finley there. It's coming through him now. I can feel it coming off him. It's Dirks, what do you think? Just on the begging thing there, he obviously had 7 points the last day. That's a massive part of anybody's scoring. 7 points, 3 2-pointers. Knowing Jim as you do, Dirks, what would be the plan now for him coming out the pitch? Should it be that Donegal should release somebody from the arc and go to him? Because I'm look at McVitie's kicks yesterday. I'm thinking to myself, he almost dragged Cavan back into this. Why doesn't the Tyrone man in the zonal go to McVitie and just stay on him like a cornerback would in a corner forward and say, listen, if one of the rest just want to kick 2-pointers, then go ahead, but I'm not going to let you. If Began's coming up the pitch, should Donegal release somebody onto him, Dirks? What do you think's happening at training? Would Jim have 2 teams playing and the keeper coming up just to get Donegal ready for that situation? And do you think Donegal should commit a player out to go and engage Began?
I think I'd say well, Jim will obviously be playing game, a game realistic training, as in scenarios where he does come out. I'm gonna. It's going to be interesting to see how much Rory gets up the pitch. With if this game brings the pace that I expect it to, it's not going to be an easy thing for him to get up. And yeah, maybe if it's a slow play, he may get up. But there's going to be a lot of quick transition in the game. So yeah, I think the big thing since the rules changed with the four back, it's been his free taking and 45s where he's really punished teams. So I know he's got a couple from play, but I think that's going to be on real slow plays. Will that happen as much? I don't know, and I don't expect it to. But he is capable of still getting up the pitch, I've no doubt, and they'll have to deal with that. Do you push someone out? Probably, I don't see Donegal going way out of their defensive shape. There's probably a big part of his game is picking out pockets for passes, which we've seen. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting one, but I don't see them changing it too much around there. But they'll definitely have to engage him higher. But discipline is the big one on the freeze. Is going to be a massive, massive task. Anytime Donegal or Jim has played Monaghan or Tyrone, with Niall Morgan hitting freeze, it has been a key point that the discipline around there and not giving them the opportunity to punish you. So it'll be a good one.
Yeah, yeah, yes, indeed. Paul, tell me, you looked at yesterday, Gavin did come back into the game. If you're watching Derry, like so many things seem to be falling in place in Donegal. I know Owen Bannon, Langans still out, but Gallen coming on, Jason McGee coming on, McFadden Ferry playing, McBurdy playing. You look at the Donegal squad now, and we're seeing games where, because there's so much energy going up and down the pitch with players, so much pace in there, and then they've got the backup of the bench. How is the Monaghan bench? I know Jack McCarron come on and got 1-2 in that final, but have yous a bench to really come at Donegal in the last 20 should it be needed? And is there any injury doubts you've heard of going into this game from the Monaghan starting team?
I haven't, to be honest with you, Grannon, heard of any major injury concerns. You'd always have to expect that there's one or two going into any championship campaign. It'd be wild, there'd be wild little luck involved if you don't have one or two niggles or hamstrings or grinds that you're nursing. That is a concern for me, is that Monaghan just don't have the same depth as Donegal have, and just even to inject a little bit of pace and energy into the last quarter, will Jim be able to spring a couple of serious guys off the bench, where Monaghan maybe won't have that in their armoury. Look, there's a few different scenarios that can play out. Do they go with a Gavin McPhillips and a Micheál McCarville early doors, that would have played throughout the whole league campaign, try to get a good shift out of them, and then try to unearth somebody from the bench, that can put a bit of life into Monaghan and get them moving forward. But it's hard to see that they have the same quality as Donegal will have. So that's a concern, and just Papa's mentioned it there, about the opportunities that Donegal provide for Monaghan and Rory Beggan in particular to come up the pitch and get some of these big long distance scores that he's become so accustomed to getting. If that's locked down, and if Monaghan are devoid of Rory Beggan's influence, that creates a problem for Monaghan for me, and it's an area where in one aspect it's a strength for Monaghan, but when it's locked out, it becomes a serious weakness, because who's filling in with those 2, 3, 4 2-pointers that Rory Beggan's been kicking. So Jack McCarron coming in, will he start? I would fancy that he will be held, trying to come into that last 20 minutes, and he can be really, really dangerous coming into a game like that. But all of these things are to be played out, and it'll be interesting to see exactly what the tactics are from a Monaghan perspective. Are they going to go with everybody that's available to them and go in full bore from the very start? I don't think you can do that in today's game. I think you have to hold something in reserve to make sure that you're going to enter that last 20 minutes. But it certainly is a concern, and as I've said a few times now, and right from the outset, since we started talking this evening, lads, maybe that's the squad and the depth that Donegal have built up, could be the deciding factor in this one.
But Dirks, do you think that's a big factor? Jim said last year, coming down the stretch against Galway, he needed to push out the squad, and of course he's done that. We have those couple of injuries, but certainly, of course, the return of McBurty and or Murphy and the likes of McFadden, Ferry coming back in, and even throughout the league playing without Jason McGee. And things seem to be coming well together with Donegal. You know, you're hoping Langan must be close, and Owen Ban as well. You know, that's a formidable squad there. And as you're saying, and without game management, if Donegal do, you know, if Monaghan had a purple patch, there are so many options for Donegal. Never mind, obviously, the talent that will start and the pace that they showed against Derry. Is this in many ways, Paul, I suppose, Dirk's a good game for Donegal in terms of, you know, they got over Derry, who didn't put up the biggest of challenges. Monaghan are coming up from 2, should give Donegal a good game. You have Down or Fermanagh then, and then at the other side we have the big clash of Armagh and Tyrone. So listen, we fancy Monaghan this to be a tight game, and if coming down the stretch, if Donegal's bench could be the difference in this game, do you think you see that how it could play out?
Yeah, I suppose it was interesting to see Oisin Farah come on, you know, the last day. Is he fully fit is a big question. You know, Paddy McBurty done a lot of damage, and like what's going to be that starting full forward line with Murphy? You know, you probably can't have the 3 of them in there, so it's going to be what the starting team is going to be. I suppose the big decision is, do you have Murph off the bench as an impact, or like Farah? Hopefully he's fit. So I see a massive, you know, decision there for Jim in relation to who he's going to play. But yeah, like if Ban and Langan come back, you know, that midfield gets stronger straight away. Obviously Ban brings serious pace into it, you know, but the other side of it is the guys that are there are pretty quick anyway, and you know, I don't think they're lacking in pace. So I'd say them boys are going to have to fight after the last day to get their places back, a lot of them. So I'd say training is fairly intense, and you know, there's a lot of battles. But yeah, the bench is going to be massive, and I think we've seen that in the games last at the weekend and the week before. Players coming off the bench, the damage they're doing. You know, being able to kick the 2-pointers. You know, fresh legs, massive. So. No, I think Donegal are in a good place if they get them guys back, but you know, they're not back yet. So my mind, Monaghan probably, you know, outside of Division 1, obviously they were the most impressive, and as I said at the start as well, the pace and the power and the intensity around the middle has really jumped out. So of Monaghan teams back a few years ago, you know.
Yeah, indeed, Dirks. Listen, I'll not ask you for predictions, lads, because we know where we got to go. We got to go where the heart says on this one. I could just imagine you, Finley, and those 2-pointers, lad. You would be a dangerous man around Clonus on a nice dry day there. You would be putting them over for fun. So thankfully you're not about as well. That'd be another thing we'd have to get him with. But lads, for now, listen, thanks so much for that wrap up. I'll be speaking to you as the season goes on. It's Paul Durkan there and Paul Finley. Much appreciated, lads.
Thanks, Brendan. Thanks, lads.
See you in Clonus. That was great there, talking to the lads. After the break, I'm going to speak with hurling boss Mickey McCann.
The DL debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Becheartert plan meidir chlichte o Electric Ireland oil freshen. Leis an bhuiine bh úsáiden tú a bhrisise sias bhealach mearfachas hana. Ón chas, cócaracht, sailsiú agus tile, fói amach an méid bhuiine bh úsáiden tú. In aine húra, an lei agus an cinál faras atá I gceist. Ag déanamh an úsáid níos soléire agus saoil níos giile. Le plan meidir chlichte ag electricireland.ie. Is gá meidir chlichte bh agat, téirmí agus cinílacha a bhaim.
Tina Turner. That is mine.
Want to show someone that you think they're simply the best, or do you have a proud Mary you want to spoil? West End mega hit Tina, the Tina Turner musical, is coming to Boardgash Energy Theatre, Dublin as part of its first ever Ireland tour. Join Highland Radio on Friday the 6th of June for an unforgettable trip. Set to a soundtrack of Tina's greatest hits, this inspirational and exhilarating story celebrates the life of the Queen of Rock and Roll. Trip includes luxury coach travel, overnight stay at the 4-star City North Hotel on a bed and breakfast basis, and ticket to the show. Contact us today on 9125,000 or check out the outlet on highlandradio.com to book your place now.
The DL debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Welcome back, everyone. Now I'm delighted to say I'm joined by hurling boss Mickey McCann. Mickey, how are you? Are you coming through there, Mickey?
Come there, Bren.
Oh, yeah, getting you now. Hey,
Yeah, all good, Bren.
you're down in the castle in Burt.
I am on Burt Castle here. Lovely view tonight.
Bird Castle's right. Listen, I tried to climb it a few times, Mickey. I'm lucky I'm still here. Hey, but Mickey, tell me this. Hey, from the weekend there, Mickey, listen, Christy Ring up in this competition. Mickey, and listen, I don't want to be any way patronising. You're a winner. This team is winners. You know, this was a difficult assignment, particularly after what I'd seen in Derry and at our home patch in O'Donnell Park a few weeks back in the league. Now, of course, Mickey, you come out the wrong side of this, but still a very spirited performance from your lads. You still must have been proud of the performance, but listen, it's a defeat nonetheless.
Yeah, look, morale victories is probably run. We think we're past that, but Derry's a very good side. I suppose we were just looking for a reaction from that flat performance in Letterkenny, you know, and no doubt we got that. But looking through the stats and stuff, look, Brendan, the game was there for us in the first half. We had a few wides and we had a chance, you know, to go on maybe 5 or 6 points up, which would have been hard for Derry to claw back, you know. But unfortunately, the scoreboard hurt us again. Really, you know, we just had too many wides at vital times. And performance very good, Brendan, and that's what we were mainly looking for. You know, just getting back to the way we can play and the level we can play at. And suppose that day in Letterkenny, I think after the Kerry result, we probably thought it was just that thinking it was going to happen, you know, and we didn't roll our sleeves up, and before we knew it, you're out of the game. So we took the learnings from it, and we knew how to keep Derry at bay, you know. And look, good performance. The result didn't go our way, but look, we moves us on into the next match with a wee bit of confidence, you know.
Mickey, that fight you're talking about, you obviously went up the division first time ever to 2. You know, you're in the Christy Ring as well. That fight from Donegal has to come first because you're stepping up the grade. So first thing first is the battle. That's what you're talking about.
No doubt, Bren. You know, we're coming from a county, you know, where the majority of our players from 3 clubs. You know, you take the likes of Meath and teams like that, the 15 or 16 hurling clubs. So we've been punching fairly high, you know, from the pick we have compared to other teams. And you go into Derry, the likes of Slotmeal, who are in an All-Ireland semi-final a few months ago and just beaten by a point. So we're under no illusion. If we take our foot off the gas in terms of work rate and honesty and desire that we bring, you know, we're in trouble because the other teams are that wee bit ahead of us and been at that level of hurling for longer. So that day in Letterkenny, we did take our foot off the gas and we're punished. So we've learned from it. And the main thing we can bring is, we've plenty of good hurlers, Brendan, but if the work rate drops, we can be caught very handy, you know.
Yeah, you had a few goal chances in that first half as well. Mickey, you found Chrissy McNaughton, of course, son of the famous Sambo, who's crossed over the border there. He was a bit of a handful on the day.
He was, Brendan, you know, and he's probably the rustiest hurler we've ever come up against, you know, and just past chatting to other managers through the league. He's the main Derry forward, give them all trouble, you know. He's so big and strong and really rusty and clinical. So he actually got a goal. We give a goal away from the throw-in, Brendan. The ball broke our favour from the throw-in, and we coughed it up cheaply. And it was down in Christy McNaughton's throat after 15, 17 seconds and ended up in the net. So he's a handful, Brendan, and you need a damn good full-back to look after him. But the 2 lads in the corner for us on Sunday was very good. Steve McBride and Oisin Kelly, the 2 corner forwards are taken off, and that was 2 lads that give a serious baller in Letterkenny, with 2 inside lads along with McNaughton, and we've quietened them down. But unfortunately, the Derry half forward line started clipping scores, so a lot of fire sticking out, Brendan, that Derry forward line. But we sort of went after Derry this time. We sat back with Sweeper the last time, and he sort of was delivering the supply line to the forwards, but we went after them, Brendan, and the game was there for us. I suppose from the 20th minute to 26th minute, we had 5 or 6 wides, and we were 1-5 to 1-3 up at the time. So you take even half of them, Brendan, and we had a serious goal chance of 3-on-1, and we messed it up, and it ended up coming down over our bar. So the chance was there, Brendan. I think we could have went in 5 or 6 up, and maybe Derry could have pushed out more, going after us in the second half, and things might have opened up for us, you know.
Yeah. This is just a word on Luke White as well. You know, some great performance right across the board. He pulled off a couple of brilliant saves, had 1-1 as well, a penalty. Great performance from him.
Yeah, great performance. He's a great striker of the ball. Look, and you back him any day in the penalty, you know. he finished it lovely, and no, it was good. It was a good bounce back from conceding a goal so early, and the next score we got was a goal, so it was a goal apiece after a couple of minutes. So the game settled down then. But Luke was very good for us on Saturday with puck outs, and it said a couple of one-on-one saves where Derry were on us, and he kept it out. So Luke's a big player for us, and when he's on form, it adds a lot to it.
Yeah, and so was the biggest thing for this now, Mickey, was really it's what is taken into this Wicklow game, coming up now on Saturday, that right, that was just a blip against Derry. It was a one-off. You've righted that. Obviously, still, as you saying, listen, there was an opportunity in this to be ahead in the first half, which would have taken out the purple patch they had in the second and made it a much, much closer, maybe a victory. So it's about this Wicklow game now, Mickey, and I suppose the confidence you'll take from the Derry performance.
Yes, and Wicklow's no bad side, Brendan. They've all the hurlers out this year, and they beat us in the record final a couple of years ago, and they give Derry serious trouble last year. Derry's away from home, so we're under no illusion. They got a good start against Tyrone. They won by 7 points, so they have 2 points on the board where we have none. So we've got to really get a victory in Letterkenny if we have any chance. First and foremost on this Christie ring, we've got to make sure we stay there, Brendan, and pick up a couple of victories. We do believe we can put it up to anybody and try push for a final spot, but it's going to be fine margins where you could be pushing for a final or you could be relegated. So we're under no illusions how big this Wicklow game is going to be, and look, we know them well, and I think if we turn up we did against Derry, we should have enough to get us over the line, hopefully, but it's all on the day, and we just can't have a repeat of that poor performance I had a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, listen, I would encourage anybody to get down and watch this game. Donegal hurling games are fantastic viewing. The side they play it so well. They've really energised hurling in Donegal. It's on the up and up, which is great to see. And I tell you, nobody will be passing the ball over and back the arc. I can promise you that. It's bang stuff. It is serious entertainment. Mickey, listen, I'll be down watching. Listen, good luck at the weekend, all right?
Thank you, Brendan. Chat to you Saturday.
Stop, man. That's Mickey McCann there, hurling boss. Say playing Wicklow this Saturday. Get down and support them if you can. We're going to switch across now to the game yesterday. I caught up with Shawnee Johnson, former Cavan star, after their defeat to Tyrone. I'm here with former Cavan County star Shawnee Johnson. Shawnee, tough day at the office for Cavan here in Healy Park in the Ulster quarter final.
Yeah, disappointing day, Brendan. Look, we always knew it was going to be tough. Look, I wanted them to come with something different. I think I said it to you there earlier on. Like, I just felt that it was always going to be a really difficult ask if we didn't address basically what has gone on for the last X number of years. We're at 43 and counting now, Brendan. So, I think in order for Cavan to get over this hoodoo that they seem to have with Tyrone, there needs to be a huge realisation, firstly, that there's an issue there, and secondly, around painting that picture of what it actually looks like to feel and to go and beat Tyrone, which is very, very difficult.
Yeah, and I suppose, Shani, myself and yourself were talking to Thomas Niblock there, and you brought up about the mindset, and I was saying that we had a similar mindset back in the day with Armagh, but from the draw in this game, Cavan coming in this game had to upset Tyrone in some way, had to get about them, but it was Tyrone who controlled the game, and I suppose a large part of that was on the back of Cavan's own kick-out, which Tyrone dominated, particularly in that first half.
Yeah, look, and I know there's a lot of football to be played from the time the draw is made to today, but I honestly feel every single training session, every single meeting, every single day, there needs to be stuff written down, there needs to be stuff put up on walls, there needs to be something that a player sees every single morning, because you're not going to change the habit of a lifetime unless you do something completely different. And we will go and look, we're all going to head off now in the next hour and probably watch someone try and do something that he hasn't done before, or he hasn't done in 11 years. And you can, all you would hear McElroy talking about over the last while, Brendan, is the work he's doing with Bob Rotella. Okay, so what are the Cavan players doing in order to get over something that has really impacted all their careers over a 10-11 year period? You look at a lot of the players there, Gerard McKiernan, Darragh McVitie, Killian Clark, Killian Brady, all of Kieran Brady, Jerry Smith, they've all suffered huge heartache at the hands of the red and white jersey. And honestly, I just feel the need to have painted the picture so strongly over the last 6 or 7 months that this is what it's going to look like, this is who we're going to target, this is what we're going to do in the first few minutes. Like, I would have expected Cavan to come with something maybe different. Like, who's to say that something radical happens even before the throw-in like that, just to say, we're here, we're setting the tone, we're not allowing you to dictate. Like, realistically, you could say there that the game was done after 20-25 minutes, which is extremely disappointing from a Cavan perspective.
Yeah, and just on that, big lead at half time, the same as last year. But of course, you conjured up them couple of goals last year and brought yourself back in it. This time it was 2 pointers, no more than 3 brilliant ones from McVitie and a brilliant one from Kiernan as well. Did you think at that time, the bit of Cavan blood, did it start racing that, God, there's a wee opportunity here we could get back into it?
It did, and then Martin McNally, but he gave Tyrone what I thought was a harsh free. And then Cavan had a good chance with Sean McAvoy to tail wide, and then they had that goal chance. But like Tyrone were a bit rocking at that stage. Like Morgan had hooked a couple of kickouts that you had mentioned earlier on. And like I completely agree with what you said earlier. The game is now hinging on really, like everyone says kickouts, but it's actually hinging a lot on opposition kickouts. And can you get enough go forward ball off the Tyrone kickout, which Cavan didn't do? Did Tyrone get enough go forward ball off the Cavan kickout? Absolutely, in the first half, and they made hay from that. And I think from a defensive point of view, against these top teams, you really have to get loads of joy on their kickout, because it takes away their structure defensively. You see Tyrone, when they were able to get set on slow attacks, it made it very difficult for Cavan to break down, and they got in around in 2s and 3s and 4s and stripped Cavan a lot. Where in the second half, Cavan were able to win 1 or 2 of Morgan's kickouts, and they had that go forward ball, and you see a lot of the white jerseys running backwards, and you see the numbers on the back, and that's never a good sign defensively.
Yeah, and just lastly, Shawnee, then for us Donegal folk listening, and there'll be many Tyrone and Derry people, etc., out there as well. At the minute in Ulster, people are talking about. Certainly it was Donegal and Armagh. A lot of the conversation was, I don't know why Tyrone weren't mentioned. They will be mentioned after today in terms of the big maybe 3 teams that are maybe slightly ahead. You look at Monaghan, then I think Monaghan and Derry just coming in after that. I think most people would put it that way. What's your feeling now on where the Anglo Celts going to end up?
Yeah, I have to be very careful now. My wife is from Buncrana, so this will be heard in our house. Look, I have backed from the very beginning. I'm not saying because it's you that Donegal would win the All Ireland. I know like how much emphasis does Jim McGuinness put on the Ulster Championship? Absolutely everything. How much emphasis does Kieran McGeeney put on it? Not as much as Jim McGuinness. So that's why I think in Ulster, Donegal are still going to be at the forefront. But I really would not write off this Tyrone team. I look at them last year when they weren't at their best, Stevie, and they still pushed that Donegal team to the limit in the semi-final. And honestly, it looked at a stage with 5 or 6 minutes to go that they would get over the line. And I just think with Malachy O'Rourke, and I've worked with him before, he'll bring a calmness, but he'll also bring a huge hunger and a desire, and it's nearly going to be like a new look Tyrone team, and they'll take beating. I would actually right now I think they'll beat Armagh in a semi-final, and we could be looking at another Tyrone Donegal's final.
Yeah, you heard it here. Shawnee Johnson, top man.
Thanks very much.
Tyrone Donegal final. Oh, that'll be music to the ear of my next guest, Paddy Hunter. Paddy, how are you?
Not bad, Brandon. Keeping all right.
Thanks so much for joining us, Paddy. Listen, Shawnee Johnson there, of course, he's married to a Donegal woman. Lucky guy. Listen, the kids may as well wear Donegal jerseys now. That would be the done thing.
Probably so. But what I tell you, you may be speaking a wee bit too fast there. Hey, in fairness, Tyrone and Donegal final might be a wee bit hopeful at this stage. But I have to say, Brandon, and good to chat to you here, and you're doing really well there in Highland. Great to hear that. For a young fella used to kick a bit of ball for Roma.
Oh yes, boy, we could go off topic with that one.
You're doing right, but no. On a serious note, yeah, I think Tyrone are going the right way, but maybe it's too early to think of Ulster finals yet, though.
Definitely, Paddy. Listen, what did you make of it yesterday? And I can't believe this conversation about Armagh and Donegal. For me, looking at Tyrone squad yesterday, it's got everything about them, and as Shawnee was just saying there, they've got Malachy O'Rourke. Malachy's going to get the best out of this squad. The Tyrone team is a talented team. They've got a conveyor belt of talent. They just need the right stewardship, and with himself and like say Ryan Porter in there, they're going to be a formidable outfit, and we've seen, I suppose, patches of it yesterday without any real challenge from Kevin.
Absolutely. I think the first half just showed what they can do. 10 points up at half time, very dominant. The kick out was good. Everything was working well for them as well. Maybe they took their foot of the gas in the second half, but there's you look across the line there and you see the likes of Harry Campsey not togged out, Conor Miller not togged out, Derek Canavan missing yesterday, of course, as well. 1 or 2 others not there. So Mark Bradley, another one, just come back from injury, and they obviously didn't feature. So you think to yourself, well, there's a lot of quality there. One aspect that would worry me, Brendan, is the fact they're not taking 2-pointers. You seen how important it was for Antrim against Armagh the other day. Darren McCurry scored 7 points yesterday. Not one player scored a 2-pointer. From a Tyrone point of view, Cavan batched on 4-5, in the second half. That's worrying. And I don't know what that is as a mindset. I don't know what it is.
Would it not be, like you look at Donegal's not hitting 2-pointers, and you look, Tyrone really cut through the Cavan man-for-man marking, which means they don't end up in a 2-pointer zone, they end up inside arc, whereas Tyrone's zonal defence means that Cavan end up shooting from outside it. So, Kerry didn't kick hardly any 2-pointers to kick the raft of goals, neither did Donegal. Is it not a thing where if you can break that line, which Tyrone were at ease, you're going to end up in a position where you don't need to kick them as such, but there's nothing stopping them happening. It's just, I think that'll come against Armagh.
If you don't need them, that's all the better. But if you do need them, where they're going to come from, and that's worrying. They scored 14 2-pointers in the National League this year from the 7 games. Like Michael McKernan come forward, I think he got 3 of them. So there's a bit of a worry there who's going to get them, and that would be just the one downside. But there's more positives and negatives from a Tyrone point of view. There has to be, Brandon, and Tyrone supporters. I talked to Kieran McGeary after it yesterday, and his concern, and I think it's a lot of people's concern, there's not enough Tyrone support getting behind them and believing maybe this is something that Malachy and Ryan, Leo, Chris, Colin McCullough are all building there, because you mentioned that obviously Ryan and Malachy, but then there's them guys behind the scenes as well. Big John Devenney, the goalkeeping coach, Colin McCullough, Chris Lawn, and Leo McBride. There's a good backroom team there, and it is about leadership.
Paddy, tell me this then, what is happening in Tyrone? Because listen, I'm in Tyrone all the time in my job. Football mad. Every place I go, we chat football. So how is that not coming down into championship game in Healy Park? The stars of Tyrone are out playing. What's happening? If that was a league game, against the Dubs or against, what kind of crowd was there, atmosphere against the Dubs? I obviously wasn't there that day. Like, you just
around 6,000, 7,000 as well. It was similar,
Yeah,
and
so
Cavan last year was 9,000 at the Tyrone Cavan game in Breffney last year.
That's right. So are we asking too much of people throughout that league in a quick turnaround? Is that something to do with, Paddy, in terms of Tyrone are expected to win? So the championship is more or less starting for Tyrone now. Next day out, is that the feeling?
Don't know. Hey, Brendan, the crack, like obviously the Tyrone Championship is the best championship in the country. There's no doubt about that. There's some quality on show there from junior, senior, and intermediate. There's a great buzz whenever the Tyrone Championship's going. And over the past maybe few, when you look back to say 2003, 05, 08, 21, even 18, the year they lost to Dublin, there was a bit of a momentum going. There was a bit more of a buzz. People were buzzing to get to see Tyrone. And I know from my own point of view, while I was working, my whole family went to see a Tyrone match as well. It doesn't matter where it was. You went to the Tyrone match, whether it be National League or indeed if it be the Championship, you were at the games. And maybe it's not the same. Like, I don't know, maybe the mentality has changed. But there's regulars there, just as there's people there who go, the likes of Jared and the daughter Sinead there, they're never far away. A wee woman there from Fenton there, she's 80 odd years of age, she never misses a game. There's people who go all the time, but they're hardcore. And maybe it's time for those sort of naysayers who are sitting back and maybe hoping for the championship to kickstart maybe the next day against Armagh, to get out and support them. And I know that's a feeling from a lot of people, just to go back out and support the team again, because there's a good product there, Brandon. And this new format, the new rules, I think they're great. And it's a different game.
And listen, still a lot of positive yesterday. Obviously Morgan, the mercurial Morgan. Anything's possible with the man.
Brilliant man, isn't he? He's not afraid to come out. He's not afraid to take a high ball either. He's a lot of confidence, isn't he?
He's not lacking in that, is he? Just the rock at the back, Teague and Brennan's solid, the big midfield men, of course, and McGeary's flying, and so is McKiernan. And then, listen, I give McCurry man of the match. I just thought he was that wee difference. Like, McGeary was up there. Big Donny had a good game, solid as well. But I thought that point where Cavan had 5 or maybe 6, Paddy, and the McCurry's point in the corner, that was kind of stemmed the tide a wee bit. That was just, and he, of course, was involved in the Kilpatrick goal as well. He's back in form. And of course, Paddy, those injuries you mentioned, Derek Canavan, Myler, I seen Mark Bradley doing a session before the game, so he's very close. Matty Donnelly came on. So, you put those guys back into that squad as well. Like, that's a serious team.
There's a serious squad there. Aye, like the Joe Goose coming on as a sub as well, you know, and Big Ben McDonald's back there too. And it is great to see Peter Teague there after, you know, being away for so long. It's great to see him back and all them lads coming back into the squad. You can feel there's an energy about the squad. The relegation wasn't a big issue.
No.
You know, I really don't think it was a case for Malachi to try and try things and jig things around or whatever. I think it was somewhere in the region of 29 players maybe used during the campaign or during the league campaign. He tried players out, he moves things around. And as you, myself and yourself were obviously down that night in Donegal for Tyrone and Donegal and under 20s, while they didn't play well that night, you know there's boys there who can perform as well. So there's a good nucleus coming through. The minors won the minor league there a couple of weeks ago. They start against Fermanagh this week. There's a lot of positives, a lot of young lads coming through, and a lot of more positive stuff to be talking about, you know, and a Tyrone point of view, which is good news, really, because it has been stale for a couple of years now at senior level and just became stale a wee bit, you know.
Yeah, brilliant. Paddy, down to the last couple of minutes here, the rivalry with Armagh, you know, we talk about the Donegal Tyrone one. Is the rivalry with Armagh, is that still carrying to the biggest in terms of,
you see,
you don't want to lose to them, they're all Ireland champions. Is this kind of like a mark point already that in the Tyrone evolution under O'Rourke that this would be a massive victory?
Massive game. You go back to, I suppose it all depends where you live in Tyrone. If you live in the north part of Tyrone, there is your arch enemy, right? South Derry men and all that there, you know, up around Cookstown, Ballinderry, on up around that way. And then if you live in the southern part of Tyrone, Armagh, you're not your enemy, you know. And there was one time everybody hated Tyrone, so it didn't make much difference. But no, you're spot on.
Yeah.
It's a massive game.
So who do you not like then? Do you want to tell us now?
I like everybody.
Oh, you're too media savvy.
I'm purely neutral.
You're too media savvy. And listen, you loved all us Donegal boys because we used to come in for Oma Town back in the day and play a bit of ball for you, big Roy McCready.
Absolutely, them were the days, weren't they?
Hey, they were good times, and Paddy.
Absolutely, Brandon. Great times all together. You must sit to yourself. Excuse me.
But you keep a wee eye on things there, Paddy. But listen, I've four young bucks there to keep me busy, as the man says, and I'll get back to them this evening. They help out where I can.
Oh, that's it. There's a new Oma Town starting up here now, so maybe it'll come back.
You never know, Paddy. Me and you'll take them over, joint managers. I'll bring the philosophy. You can bring the tactical nous. How's that, my man?
Talking.
Paddy, listen.
Back to the Armagh thing, Brandon.
Paddy, we're just about to run out of time, Paddy. Do you know what? Me and you'll get a chat again, all right?
Absolutely,
down the road.
Thanks very much.
Because listen, you're a great man to talk to, and we'll probably do a wee commentary. We'll keep an eye on under 20s as well as time goes on. All right, sir.
Absolutely, the 20s and the minors coming now. Good man.
First class, Paddy Hunter
Brandon,
there,
all the best,
top GA correspondent, top commentator as well there, with Ulster TV and radio. Paddy, thanks a million, folks. That's the DL debate. Thanks so much for joining us. Stay tuned for the excellent Monday night sessions. The lads are raring to go, a packed show as ever. I'll speak